Hello, and thank you for joining us today to learn about data testing for MongoDB. My name is Laura Poggi, and I'm the Director of Marketing at RTTS, the parent company of QuerySurge. I'll be moderating the webinar today. Bill Hayduck, RTTS's President and CEO, will be kicking off the webinar with a presentation. He will be followed by Jeff Bucarsley, our architect, who will provide you with a demonstration. If you have any questions during the webinar, please type them into your chat window. We will answer all of your questions during a Q&A session after Jeff's demonstration is over. Please also use the chat to alert the host if there are any issues seeing the presentation or hearing the presenters. And just as a note, all the MongoDB features that are shown today will be available for trial around mid-September. So if anyone is interested, we'll let you know a little bit more in a little while. So thank you again for your time and participation. Now I will hand it over to Bill to kick off the presentation.
Thanks, Laura. Good morning, good afternoon, good evening, depending on where you are. Welcome to our webinar, Automating the Data Testing for MongoDB, Ensuring MongoDB Data Quality. Just a brief note, we will take questions after the demo, but feel free to go to chat and fire them off now, and Laura will gather them and ask them to Jeff at the end of the demo. Great. So just a brief note about who we are. We're RTTS. We're the developers of QuerySurge. We're founded in 1996. We're located in our New York headquarters right now. We also have offices in Atlanta, Philadelphia, and Phoenix. Our primary expertise is in software quality and testing, both services and solutions. Our customer profile is typically the Fortune 1000 and some mid-sized firms, and we have over 600 customers, and we're strategic partners with IBM, Microsoft, HP, Oracle, Teradata, and Hortonworks. Okay, a little bit about MongoDB. I'll start out briefly with a real brief overview. MongoDB, for those that don't know, comes from the word humongous. It's classified as a NoSQL database. NoSQL now means not only SQL, it used to mean NoSQL. It doesn't implement your typical relational database structure. It's more of a document-oriented database. And what this does is it makes the integration of the data in certain apps easier and faster. It's free and it's open source. And it was originally built by 10gen and released in 2009. And since then, 10gen changed their name to MongoDB Inc. So there's MongoDB.org and MongoDB.com. MongoDB.com is Mongo Inc. and MongoDB.org is the open source organization sponsored by MongoDB Inc. One of the interesting things is that MongoDB is now the 5th place relational database system out there and is 1st place for NoSQL database management systems. So it's been growing like crazy since release. And that's why we built MongoDB into QuerySurge, because we're getting a lot of requests for it. So again, a real 30,000-foot overview of when people are using MongoDB and when they're using Hadoop. MongoDB for online real-time processing, where the data set is smaller and the processing is measured in milliseconds. And Hadoop is more for offline big data processing, offline analytics, where processing is measured in minutes and hours and days. So from the MongoDB Inc. website, they listed 3 use cases of MongoDB, and I'm going to list them here quickly. First one's data warehouse, second one's ETL to and from Mongo, and the third is batch aggregation. We're going to focus on the use case that's data warehouse. As you can see, source data comes in from a lot of different sources, ingested by Mongo. The data can be pushed to Hadoop, which pushes it to your traditional relational DB and data warehousing platforms, and then your executives using business intelligence, analytics, and reporting are going to make strategic decisions. So the reason why this data is really crucial is that it be accurate after all these transformations and all these hops, is that your executives are using this to make strategic decisions to gain a competitive advantage. And we'll see later how that can backfire if the data is wrong. So some of the data quality issues that are out there, from Gartner said 80% of organizations will underestimate the costs related to the data acquisition tasks by an average of 50%. Information Week said that 46% of companies cite data quality as a barrier for adopting BI products. Analyst firm Serious Decisions said data quality practices boost revenue by 66%. And Gartner also said the average org loses $8.2 million annually through poor data quality. Now, since this quote came out, we talked to a data analyst from Gartner, who was one of their experts, who said they think this number is ridiculously low. It's much closer to $20 to $30 million annually for the average company. So as you can see, data quality is really important to C-level executives. There's even a new title called Chief Data Officer that's in charge of data quality in a lot of the large organizations. Here's some interesting headlines that came out in the last 4 weeks. First one, an embarrassing economic data error rocked Wall Street today. The second's my favorite. NSA picking drone targets based on bad data, death by unreliable metadata. That would be a little bit scary if you happen to be living next door to the house they wanted to target with one of these drones. And third, bad data in grocery supply chain to cost Australian retail grocery industry over $1 billion Australian dollars. That shows you how bad data can really have an impact financially and health-wise. So validating data, there's 3 big issues. The first is the need to verify more data and do it faster. Big data is putting more and more data into our environments, and it's making it more and more difficult to verify that the data is accurate. The second is need to automate the testing effort. This is the only way to speed up the process, is by doing it automated. And third is need to be able to test across different platforms, whether it be flat files to Mongo, or Mongo to Oracle, or Oracle to Hadoop, or flat files to Hadoop. There's a lot of different architectures involved that need to be tested across. So obviously, there's a huge need for a testing tool out there, and that's what we're here to talk with you about how we do it. So let's take a look at QuerySurge. QuerySurge is a collaborative data testing tool that finds bad data and provides you an insight into the health of your data, and provides everyone on the team. We test data warehouses, data interface, data migrations, upgrades, and big data. And with QuerySurge, you can improve the quality of your data by using it. You can increase the speed of your testing cycles. Obviously, you can reduce costs by avoiding some things we already talked about. And it's a collaborative tool that allows everyone on your team, no matter where they are, to be able to share information. So sharing the information can be done throughout your team from your practitioners, like your testers and your developers, that will write tests that test your data and compare it, to your participants, like your managers and your ops teams, and your data analysts that will review and keep track of the health of the data and the percent of data that's been tested and the percent that's passed, and your genuine health of data. The architecture of QuerySurge is it's web-based, so your team can be distributed anywhere in the world. It installs on either Windows or Unix, Linux platform, and it can connect to any JDBC-compliant database or data source, regardless of whether it's a flat file, XML, or any traditional database or data store. QuerySurge is really good at finding bad data, and the way it does this is it pulls data from the source and from a target, and then it compares the data in seconds, and then it generates reports, audit trails, emails, whatever you need. It doesn't care what the source or target is. As I said before, the source could be a flat file with the target being Oracle or Sybase or Teradata. The source could be Teradata, and the target could be MongoDB. So it doesn't really matter what's on either side. QuerySurge tests either side of the leg of the transaction. So let's go back to our use case from MongoDB Inc. that had data warehouse testing, and let's look at how automated data testing impacts it. As I said, QuerySurge can test between any 2 points or any legs. So here you could see QuerySurge, these are the areas where QuerySurge would be testing, whether it be from the sources to Mongo, or from Mongo to Hadoop, or from Hadoop to IBM or Teradata or Oracle, or any of those there. And it can be in the other direction or any combination. Any 2 points QuerySurge can test on. And this is crucial, obviously, because, again, if you're bringing in all this data and this data is going to reside in a warehouse where your executives are going to be using business intelligence analytics and reporting to make strategic decisions, it's important how this data be clean and that it's tested and 100% verified. So the value add for QuerySurge is it can increase data coverage, and I'm not just talking about performing the test, but I'm talking about doing all the comparisons from less than 1%, which is what most companies we see are doing, to upwards of 100% of all your data. It can decrease your testing time by as much as 1,000 times, or whatever combination and increase in testing coverage and decrease in testing time you need, whatever your tolerance is. And as a return on investment, QuerySurge definitely provides an increase in data and saves a lot of money. Here's a quick case study where a pharma organization saved $288,000 in clinical trials through a build. And here's a little chart that we have that we put together for it, where they verified 100% of their data. They had over 9 million verifications. They had took them 4.5 hours to do it. If they had done it manually, it would have taken them 600 days. So that's where the savings comes in. But that's only savings of time. It doesn't take into consideration the fact that they've avoided fines from regulatory bodies or any lawsuits. And in this industry, particularly the pharma, that's important because the pharma industry has been assessed with over $13 billion in fines in the last 4 years. So that's our business case for QuerySurge. As Laura said, MongoDB Release is going to be officially available for download September 22nd. We'll email everybody on this list. But if you have an immediate need, contact us. Our team can set you up manually for a trial or a POC. We don't want you waiting in line at Best Buy the night before September 22nd to get the software. Obviously, just kidding. It's not available that way. It's only available through trial download or trial in the cloud or proof of concept. But they can be done on our website on that date. Beforehand, like I said, reach out to our team and they can help you trial it earlier if you have an immediate need. Okay. On that note, Jeff McCarsley, our Chief Scientist, VP, and Chief Architect, is going to give you a demo of how QuerySurge works with MongoDB.
Thanks, Bill, and good day, everybody. Just give me a half a second here to cue things up. And here we are in QuerySurge, and just to give a brief overview of what QuerySurge is and what it does in more detail, the workflow of QuerySurge is pretty much right in front of you. The idea here is that we're going to support you in QuerySurge in your design of your tests so that you get all the proper tests in and coverage that you need to test your data flows throughout your architecture, or whether that includes MongoDB or MongoDB and Hadoop or databases as well. You'll need to schedule your tests. We give you a live run dashboard so you can see your tests running in real time. And lastly, the kind of daily workflow doesn't include reporting, so that if you need to report out to management, to other team members, you need to prepare for audits, etc., you can do all that in the reporting module. And of course, we have an administrative view as well as part of QuerySurge. It's not part of the daily workflow, but that's where you manage all your assets, create users, create connections to your data sources, and so forth. I'd like to focus in on the design library right now, and I'm just going to pop over here to the specific architecture that we're going to talk about today, and that is a MongoDB containing architecture, where MongoDB, as indicated in the previous slides that you saw, is flowing to Hadoop, and also then from Hadoop to a standard database. We're going to illustrate with Oracle today. And so let's just jump in and take a view of what a query pair looks like. So this is a pretty straightforward query pair. There's a couple of important things to mention about it. So if you look on the left, you see the source query, that's a MongoDB query, and on the right you see the target, that's the Hadoop query. And so what you're seeing right here, of course, is something that needs a little bit of explanation right there. As you can see, both of these are in these queries are written in some sort of SQL dialect, and we can do that with MongoDB because, as mentioned previously, we connect everything by JDBC. We're connecting to MongoDB by the MongoDB Unity driver. So that's a third-party driver that is out there commercially available for MongoDB users. And so that allows us to write standard SQL against MongoDB, and that's what we've done right here. On the target side, you can see that we're connecting to Hadoop through its Hive layer. And again, since there's a JDBC driver that one can connect to Hive with, we're doing that, and we're writing SQL there as well. So that's our sample query pair right here. There are a number of features that a query pair has, one of which is a design run. We give you a bunch of statistics when we do a design time run. You can look at the data that's come back from the run. You can see failures. So if you've got a lot of issues in your data, you can see all of that. You can see the mismatches between source and target called out. This is a side-by-side, a stack view of the mismatches, but you can also do a side-by-side view and see the data that way, whichever works best for you. So give you a full view of what the data comparison is once QuerySurge analyzes the results that come back for you. I'll just mention parenthetically that this data and any data in QuerySurge can always be exported. So if you need to work up data with a colleague or look at it in another tool, you can always export it to XML or through a CSV or an XML format. Now, let me jump along here and just mention the next step in the workflow. And the thing that I'm going to tell you about here is just a little bit of QuerySurge vocabulary. The design view that we just left, of course, is, as we said, where you create your query pairs. But we wanted, in our thinking about how QuerySurge should work, we wanted to acknowledge that the way you design and group your query pairs for purposes of design might be very different than the way you need to group your query pairs for purposes of execution. So for purposes of execution, what we've got is this concept of a suite. I'm just going to create an empty suite right here. And in order to populate that suite, if you look on the far right, you can see all of our design folders. And I can just drag in a folder, and I can edit out query pair as I need. And I can drag in another folder if I want to. And when I've got the mix of query pairs that I need for a particular execution, I'm good to go. I can save it, and I've got an executable suite. Now, the basic idea here is to respect what really happens when you're actually in development for your architecture and any related ETL processes, which is that the way you design things may go according, for example, to the mappings between all of the different subsystems in your architecture. But the way you execute things might have to follow the way things are actually deployed or some other rule. And so to give you the flexibility to execute in a different set of groupings than you design, we have this idea of a suite. What do you do with a suite once you've got it? Well, there are a couple of things that you can do. One thing is that you can create a scenario. A scenario is a collection of suites, much the same way that a suite is a collection of query pairs. And you can just add in some test suites. And once you've got the mix of test suites, that you want, you can schedule each of them for an execution time. So let's say I've got something going on around midnight on this environment, and I know that suite is going to end before then. And I want to maybe give a little bit of a window, so I'm going to start my next suite at 2 a.m. and possibly the final suite at, say, 4 a.m. I can schedule all that up with a scenario, and once I've got that in place, I'm good to go. So I can do any kind of calendar-based scheduling, if you will, by creating a scenario. I can add as many suites into the scenario and schedule them all as need be, and I'm good to go. There are other options for scheduling in QuerySurge as well. A lot of our users have what we refer to as event-based scheduling needs, meaning QuerySurge needs to respond to events going on in the wider environment. And we have an execution API for those purposes to meet those needs. So a lot of our users simply call it a QuerySurge from an external process, whether it's an ETL process or a scheduling process, to execute from an external event QuerySurge calls, and they do the bulk of their testing that way. Now, what I'm going to do for our purposes right here is I'm just going to show you the third way of scheduling, which is just to say run now. That's going to pop us over into our run dashboard. And what we're waiting for is an agent to pick up the request. We'll see that happen in a minute. And the queries will start to be fired off against the various portions of the architecture. While that is queuing up and starting to happen, I'm going to just bring up a quick slide to show you what is going on as those executions are ongoing. And the thing I want to point out to you here is that we've got in this architectural diagram of the sort that you saw previously, all of the points and entry points for QuerySurge, I apologize, that you can access. So if you wanted to test JSONs against what's in your MongoDB, or an external conventional database against MongoDB data, or Excel files, or flat files, or XML files, you can do all of that. What we're illustrating here is the kind of the internal portion of in this demo today, the internal portion of this architecture, where there's data flow from MongoDB to Hadoop, and from Hadoop into a database, in this case Oracle. So as all of the data has been flowed through as ETL through, QuerySurge comes along after that ETL process and tests the data between MongoDB and Hadoop into the Oracle database. And in addition, the last, that's still flashing here, the last item that we've got is a test between over two legs, MongoDB and Oracle. So we can look at all of those different comparisons and see where we are with that. Let's go back and see what we've got in QuerySurge now running. So our run is actually executed, and we can see that from all of our legs, we've got a lot of failures in our data, but also some passes. Let's look and see what we can see about our data. So critically, you can see when you open up, as we saw in our design time run, you can see this in your actual full executions as well. Source and target data are completely available to you. Again, exportable to those three different sources that we mentioned before. And you can see all of the failures that have been clocked by QuerySurge, again, either in the stack view or in the side-by-side view, and you can start to investigate. Now, each of these different tests is going to look at each of the legs and look at the data and report back to you. We can see in this leg, which is segmented out, you can see by different dates, the MongoDB to Hadoop for this particular data, in this date range, had relatively few failures as compared to the previous MongoDB to Hadoop leg. But these failures are kind of interesting, so I just wanted to stop for a moment and investigate them with you. So what you can see in the first row here is that we had two rows, one from source, one from target, and one from MongoDB, one from Hadoop, that came in, and they had a data difference, as indicated by the red flag, which is a data failure. And that flag has to do with some sort of character-related instance that there was some processing difference between the two in flowing the data from MongoDB to Hadoop. It seems that MongoDB possibly had the correct data, and an incorrect character somehow crept in there when it got processed into Hadoop. So that would be one sort of kind of ETL type error that you'd want to take a look at. The other kind of error that we've got here is what we call a non-matching row in QuerySurge parlance, and that's indicated with the yellow flag. What that means is that QuerySurge detected that the key for this row existed on one side, but not on the other side. In this case, on the source side, the MongoDB side, but not on the Hadoop side. Possibly that row blew up and didn't go over because the name is completely in non-English characters. Maybe that's where the issue is, but you have to go back into your architecture and check it out to see what was going on there. As I mentioned, we can also look at the Hadoop to Oracle leg. So if we go and look at that, actually all of that came back just fine, and we got a clean bill of health on at least the December to January data. When we go back to or up to the November to December data, again, we have the same issue that we saw before, where there's some character difference between one row of the data sets. That's got to be checked out. Lastly, we can do the MongoDB all the way over to Oracle jump. And again, we're going to see some of the same issues that we saw before, and we'll be able to look at those and be able to investigate what's going on there. So that kind of gives you the big picture of what happens when you're looking at QuerySurge and seeing how MongoDB data is flowing through a broader architecture. You can test all these different points as we illustrated, and get back on each leg, each transformation leg, exactly what the health of that leg is and where the issues lie. One of the things we like to urge our customers to do is what we've illustrated here, which is to segment their data out by some useful sort of principle. In this case, we're using dates, and that gives you a very quick and straightforward way of understanding where your issues are and where everything looks good. So you can very easily see here that which leg, based on date, is working well and which leg is not. Now let's jump over to the next step and just look at some reporting. I've got one of our key reports here, which we call our scenario detail report. It's got two parts. The first part is just a summary of the data. And the idea of the summary is as follows: to give you at a glance everything that's going on that's interesting with the scenario that you've executed. So the test results is a very straightforward report on how many query pairs executed. In our little sample here, we just did 6 query pairs, and 5 of them failed. The pass rate is just a 16% pass rate. But that's not the whole picture there for you. The overview contains a number of other metrics that are important to understand what happened during your execution. So if you look at just the upper lines on the overview, what you can see is that, of course, we tell you what the duration is. This executed in about 1.25 minutes. During that execution, you can see that we executed about 435,000 verifications. What that means is that if you think of each of your result sets as a table, and you're comparing cell 1.1 in your source to cell 1.1 in your target, cell 1.2 in your source, cell 1.2 in your target, and you count all of those up across all of your query pairs. In this case, we had about 435,000 verifications, and about 6,600 of them, 6,700 of them failed. If you calculate that out, that tells you that you've got about a 98% data reliability, meaning 98% of the data came back favorably. So that's a very different story than the pass rate, which is quite low. Pass rate, of course, is calculated on query pairs. Data reliability is calculated on data. So between those two, you can get a much better insight into how your tests are functioning and what your data is looking like than you could with either of them alone. I'm not going to. There are a number of other metrics in the overview. I'm not going to mention those in any detail. What I'd like to do is just scroll down here to another aspect of this report, and that is to get to the query pair results. So what you can see here are key metrics associated with each of the query pairs that were executed as part of this. You can see what the outcome was: source and target row counts, row count differences, data failure counts, etc. So you can kind of, at a glance, see what's going on here. But in addition to that, of course, if you want to go and investigate any of your failing data directly, we give you click-through capabilities. So you can just click into a query pair execution there, and we'll bring you back into the runtime dashboard and highlight that particular query pair, and then you can go again and start to pick through the precise data that is involved in this test. Again, being able to view source and target and look at the failures and kind of evaluate where things might have to go to gain an understanding of exactly what's happening on this piece of your ETL. So that kind of gives you a picture of how we operate in terms of seeing a holistic view of what's going on with the testing versus the data, being able to work with the data. As we said before, you can do exporting and work with the data if you need to outside of QuerySurge. That's always an important kind of add-in that people like to be able to get apps and work with QuerySurge data. Some frequently with complicated architectures, as architectural complexity is always increasing, people need to pull the data out, work it up elsewhere, and then come back and try and figure out whether the data mismatches are representative of a problem with the ETL process, a problem with maybe how the test was written, or a problem possibly with understanding the mapping spec. Let me just pop back into our reporting center, and just mention that we do a variety of other kinds of reporting as well. So if you want to, for example, do last run report, what this will give you is the last run of all of your query pairs. So if you need to see that, you can just get out a bulk run of those. While that report is generating, I'm just going to pop over to our scenario detail report. It won't let me. I apologize. Here we go. I just wanted to mention that after you look at this data, for all of our reports, if you like, you can save them as PDFs. So if you need to export them for storage, kind of off of QuerySurge, or share them out with managers, you can export them and send them out that way. You can also export into an Excel format to see the data in Excel format. So whichever way works for you, and that generally those two formats are in general available for our reporting. And so you can look through all of these executions. You can see the MongoDB tests that you've run. You can compare the most recent tests, perhaps with the whole set of tests that you've run previously. And you can get a good picture of the kind of progress of your project from this. I'll also mention that we do scenario comparison reporting. So if you wanted to compare the outcomes of all your scenarios, you can run those. You run a report for those as well. And while we're waiting for this to run, I'll also mention that we give you a lot of management reports, so you can do reporting on your the history of your query pairs, on the history of your scenarios, etc. So if you want to see that, you've got that kind of information as well. So you can again see all the scenarios that you've executed, along with different metrics that specify aspects of those scenarios. And again, a lot of different filters on these reports, so that you can craft each report to be able to show the data that you need to show. I'll also just mention parenthetically that we've got reporting available that goes out by email. So if you want to give team members reports on QuerySurge executions, you can craft a custom email that contains the data that you want. Everything you're looking at in this email, the text as well as the precise data, is customizable, and you're open to be able to create any kind of email that you want. Also, what is customizable around the emails is when they go out, so you can set up any set of events that you'd like for an email to go out. So if you want email to go out with the end of every execution, you can do that. If you want an email to go out only for failing executions, you can do that. If you want emails to go out at the beginning of execution, you can do that, and so on and so forth. So a lot of customizability around the email sharing aspect of this as well. So again, the whole goal here is to be able to allow you to test your full architecture with all of the components, Mongo, and any other components that are involved, to get a good picture of the data that has been tested, and really to be able to report and share fully. And if I were to summarize what the key business proposition is that we're making with QuerySurge, it's verifying, testing your data in bulk. So data quality in bulk is the whole name of the game here for QuerySurge. And the idea is very simple. For your architecture, if you are able to test, say, manually 0.1% during development, you're going to let through some very significant percent of defects. And if you're able to test your data at a 10% level with QuerySurge, so change that 10% to 10%, you're going to get far fewer defects in production. And if, as time goes on, you're able to mature your process so that you can test, say, not 10%, but maybe test every cycle 20%, 30%, you'll have even fewer issues with your data when your architecture and ETL code is deployed to production. So the whole goal here is get the percentage of data that you're able to test during development up, so that you get those defects that are in your code filtered out early and fixed early on in the development cycle, so that you're deploying higher quality ETLs to your MongoDB and Hadoop architectures right out of the box. So that's the total goal here. I think that's where we'll stop with our demo here. We've seen kind of the whole workflow of QuerySurge, and now I'm going to ask Laura if we've got any questions that have come up, and we'll address those.
Yeah, sure, of course, Jeff. So we did have some questions come in. The first one is somebody said that they joined a little bit late. They were wondering how QuerySurge connects to MongoDB.
A great question, and thank you for giving me the opportunity to revisit that, because, again, this is using a little bit of magic from the broader computing world. MongoDB is normally connected to through one of its APIs. It itself does not have a JDBC API, but the good folks at Unity have provided a JDBC driver for MongoDB, and so we use that to connect, and we can pull all the data back that we need to, just writing some basic SQL, so we get that data out for comparison to whatever other part of your architecture you want to pull data from.
All right, thank you. The next question is, can QuerySurge test JSON documents only, or can it test other kinds of collections also?
Yeah, there's no limitations on the kinds of data that you can pull back. In fact, we don't limit anything really in that regard, whether we're talking about SQL syntax or ability to access any custom functionality of your particular SQL dialect for your data source. So you can utilize all of that. Basically, we impose no limitations. You pull back exactly what you want and utilize it as you like. QuerySurge will perform a comparison. So, for example, if you are pulling back data from JSON documents, you'll be able to compare that to either, as you saw here, database data or Hadoop data or other kinds of data, flat file data, whatever you like. But if you're pulling back binary data from Mongo, and you're pulling back that same binary data that's been detailed through your system from another data source in the architecture, you're just as good to go. QuerySurge will do that comparison for you and report on the results.
Okay, our next question is, my team currently manually tests thousands of rows, but will we be able to test millions of rows using QuerySurge?
Yeah. So people are often interested in what the kind of limitations are of QuerySurge. And the first thing I need to say about that is that QuerySurge itself has no fundamental limitations in terms of rows or in terms of columns. So you can write queries with as many rows, return as many rows, and has as many columns as you like. There's no fundamental limitations on rows and columns. There are limitations, of course, because we do live in the real world. The limitations are imposed by the hardware that you deploy QuerySurge on first and foremost. If you have more resources for QuerySurge to utilize, you'll be able to do more. If you have less resources, then you'll be able to do less. But that's where the basic limitation comes from. The other thing I should mention is that it becomes quite possible with QuerySurge to issue a lot of queries into your environment and really get your source and target data sources cooking. And eventually, you can exceed with QuerySurge what the kind of the natural limit of what your source and target data sources can handle is, and they'll start to slow down. And at that point, you probably want to throttle back QuerySurge a little bit and just go under that level. That's sort of the maximum level of data throughput that you can do, and that's where you want to sit to get the maximum amount of data flowing as efficiently as possible. And that'll give you the ability to get as many tests done in the time allotted for your testing as is possible.
Okay, our next question is, can we compare Mongo collections with JSON docs against Oracle tables?
Yeah, absolutely. That's actually one of the examples that we've got right here. In these examples right here, we are pulling back on the source side some records from JSON docs that are stored in Mongo, and we're comparing those to tables, data in tables that in our case are in our Oracle data warehouse. And you can see here, again, as we mentioned, we're writing SQL on both sides to pull that data back, and QuerySurge then does the comparison. Again, the goal being get as much data tested to vet the quality of your ETL process as possible so that you get higher and higher quality in development before you get anywhere near production.
All right, and we have another question. What order do I have to test in? Does MongoDB have to be first, or can it be either source or target?
That's a great question. People often wonder that when they first see QuerySurge. The order is completely up to you. The only reason we've shown MongoDB as our source here is because in our architecture, MongoDB is the source. Let me just go back to our diagram here. It really is completely up to you in terms of design of the whole business, where you want to start out and what order you want to do things. So if you want, for any reason, MongoDB to be your target in QuerySurge, you're free to set that up that way. If you want it to be the source, likewise, as you saw, we set it up that way. And that's true of any of the other data sources that you'll encounter in this diagram. So anything can be on the source side, anything can be on the target side. Source and target are completely relative terms in QuerySurge, and the idea is to give you the maximum flexibility for designing the tests that you need to assure your data quality.
Okay, we have a question about, does QuerySurge integrate with cron tabs for running jobs on a schedule?
Yeah, that's actually one of the paradigms that some of our users like to use. Let me just back up a step and kind of touch back to where that fits into the overall picture. We mentioned scheduling by scenarios, and we said that you could put test suites in scenarios and schedule them by calendar, and that certainly is one mechanism for scheduling. As I mentioned at the time, we also have an execution API for event-based scheduling, and that's exactly what you would do with your cron tab. You would go and create, say, a shell script to call into our API, say maybe a bash script, and then you would schedule that up for whatever cron jobs you want to run, and you're basically good to go at that point. And so that would be for a Linux sort of deployment for driving QuerySurge externally. You can do the same thing on Windows using the Windows scheduler. And in addition to that, a lot of our customers have a full strength scheduling tool in their organization, and they want to drive out of that. And likewise, all you need is a script that's ready to go that calls via the API into QuerySurge, and you can run it out of any of these sources or any other source that can access a command line. Again, the API is designed to be hit through the command line, be called through the command line for one simple reason. That is the most general way to that most tools can get into to be able to call into an API. So we opted for that so that you can get into QuerySurge from pretty much anything that's out there.
All right. Our next question has to do with when they can download the trial version with the MongoDB asset.
Yeah, that version should be out in the third week in September. I think we put up date of September 22nd, and I think we'll be able to notify you when that comes around so that you'll be able to download it and play with it in your environment. And as we also mentioned, Bill mentioned earlier, if you do have an immediate need, please get in touch with us right away. We actually can set you up with the current download through a manual process. So either way, we should be able to cover your needs.
All right. And then did we have a question about what would someone need in order to deploy QuerySurge in terms of like operating system or hardware?
Yeah, so let me divide that into two questions, actually. One would be, what do you need for a trial, as opposed to what do you need for a full deployment in the production version of QuerySurge. So for a trial, pretty much any operating system that's out there, you can probably do it on. If it's on hardware that is relatively robust, then you'll be able to do more. If it's on less robust hardware, you'll be able to do less, but you'll be able to see all of the features of QuerySurge. The trial version of QuerySurge is not limited in terms of features. It's just limited by time. You get a 2-week trial when you install QuerySurge and download the trial version. let me just mention something about operating systems. So pretty much you can trial on any of the current Windows operating systems. We support Windows 7, 2003 Server, 2008 R2 Server, Windows 2012. So all of those are covered. We also know from our customers that people have deployed for trial on even older operating systems, and they've been able to do the trial too there. On the Linux side, we are supporting Red Hat's 5 and forward. So if you are a Linux shop, we should be able to cover you with that.
Is that it?
Next, yeah.
All right.
Next to go.
Okay. So our next question is about, it's another integration question. So somebody asked if we can integrate QuerySurge with their web tests, such as Selenium testers.
Yeah, probably the way you would do that is, for example, you're using Selenium on your BI tool reports, and you wanted to compare some of that data back into QuerySurge. You can probably, depending on the flavor of Selenium you've got deployed and the mechanism that you're using with Selenium, you can probably call into the QuerySurge API, maybe scrape some data off your BI report with Selenium, call into QuerySurge to execute a test, and then do some comparison between that information if you like. So you could probably get even more creative if you start to think through this. But the whole idea of the ability to access QuerySurge from the command line, execute from the command line, is to be able to play with any other tools in your environment, whether they're kind of standard test tools, that is functional test tools like Selenium, or other kind of tools in your environment, so that you can really get QuerySurge cranking along with the rest of your QA effort.
All right, and it looks like one of the last questions we have here is if there are options if somebody can't gain access to their architecture right away, if there's any options for trialing.
Oh, yeah, if you don't have availability on some platform to deploy QuerySurge on, but you'd like to at least get a feeling for the flavor of QuerySurge and what it offers you, you can go request a trial in the cloud from our website, and this will give you access to a trial box that has preset data and has a tutorial in it to take you through QuerySurge features and access that data and see what it's like to use queries in QuerySurge query pairs and so forth. And that'll give you a sense of QuerySurge in terms of what its feature set is. Of course, we always encourage people to do a trial download and install QuerySurge in their own environment so they can start to play with it with their own data and really start to see what the value is and get the thing cranking up. And then more often than not, people come back to us and they like to talk to us about getting some licenses and get QuerySurge officially installed in their environment.
All right, great. Well, that wraps up our Q&A session. So thank you, everyone, for your time and participation today. I will be sending a follow-up email to you with a link to the recording and our contact information if you have any additional questions. If you have, like Jeff and Bill both said, if you have any kind of immediate need where you'd like to test, play around with this with your MongoDB right away, then we can certainly help you get that set up. So feel free to reach out to any of us and we'll get you going. And thanks again, and have a great day.